Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. If I can get everybody's attention. For the appointed members, if you'll please remember to sign in and pick up your name tag in the back of the board conference room. And then when we're having our discussions, please use the handheld microphone when talking so we can capture that in the video. Guests, please sign in near the front desk door. All right, it is officially 12:16 p.m. I call this meeting of the Northeast Independent School District Health Advisory Council to order. Let the record show that a quorum of SHAC members is present. This meeting is in compliance with Section 28.004 of the Texas Education Code and applicable board policy. The council's meeting today will address only the topics on the agenda. No other topics will be discussed during the meeting. The SHAC meetings are open to the public. Guests wishing to address the SHAC may do so by emailing the SHAC committee at shac@neisd.net. Any persons that cause disruption during the meeting will be asked to leave. Thank you very much for your cooperation.
Please remember, health-related issues can sometimes generate passionate discussions with very different viewpoints. Remain calm and respectful throughout the process. Listen carefully with an open mind to identify critical facts and statistics that should be considered in decision-making rather than over-relying on opinions and emotions. Keep NEISD students' health as your top priority to help discussions stay on track.
All right. The first item, what we're going to do is kind of what we did last time is I'm going to rearrange the schedule a little bit just to help with the time for the presentations. So the next item on the agenda is going to be Pupil Personnel Services presentation. Mr. Tyler Shoesmith, the Executive Director of the Office of Pupil Personnel Services. Welcome, Tyler.
Thank you. So it's been a little bit of a while since I've been to a SHAC meeting, but I did serve here for almost over a decade as in my previous role as the Senior Director for Student Leadership and Wellbeing and also Family Support Services, which is the school-age parenting program. I'm assuming I need to stand here because the light's on and the mic's here. Is that we're broadcasting as well? Okay, I just want to make sure I understood the process. So
yes,
okay.
Please.
Otherwise, I'll roam the room. So I was asked to come and talk about vaping, but also to give an overview of what Pupil Personnel Services does. So we have a considerable amount of responsibilities. I'm very blessed to have a wonderful team of hearing officers, attendance officers, and members of our FIT grant group that are managing our mental health related to discipline grant that we received through the federal government 3 years ago. A couple highlights here, some that may come to mind for some of you is a majority of the things we do is regarding like student discipline, but also the extra pieces within the district that don't quite fit some other place. But we manage student code of conduct, the student parent handbook. Graduations are a big one, so I'll see all your kiddos across the stage. You'll see me on the floor either in a very unstressed mood or a very stressed mood. It really depends on which graduation we're at and what's going on. And sometimes carrying chairs across the floor because kids can't, sit in the right chair, and then now we have kids that need room to sit down. So it's a whole mix of things. We really do try to focus in our department on making sure we have the best outcomes for kiddos that are sometimes experiencing some of the most traumatic, things that they've been involved in with regards to discipline. When you think about a kiddo that has to go to an alternative center because they've gotten in trouble for something, sometimes it's their first time being in serious trouble. The biggest thing that we want to impress upon them and parents also is that this is an opportunity for them to learn from this event, where 5 to 10 years from now, this event is an opportunity for them to learn from the San Antonio Police Department and the criminal justice system. So we're hoping that these behaviors can be modified and changed based on their opportunity to learn with us, but also ensuring that we have the supports in place to make sure that it is an impactful opportunity for them. Supporting mental health, looking at the conditions of what their family environments are. If they need social support, between our social worker that works in our office, that is something new we've implemented the last couple of years. bringing in the behavior supports from TCHAT, which is the Texas Child Health Accessing through Telemedicine that Julie and her team help facilitate as well. We also want to make sure that kiddos are safe, and so across the board, the Student Code of Conduct, managing that, but also receiving criminal notifications from outside. So when kiddos get arrested for outside behavior, we're notified of that so we can ensure that those individuals are in a place where they're not going to cause continuous harm for our kiddos. And then on the fun side, foreign exchange is one of ours. So kiddos who come in from other countries that want to learn with our students, they have the opportunity to be able to do so. And then this week we actually have our dress code committee, which is going to provide some input on the student dress code for the district. That is a biannual process, and it's interesting to see where people's interests lie, is what they find are really important, if it's flip-flops or open-toed shoes, or they're just really don't want kids to wear a specific type of shorts or blue jeans. But we take all that to executive staff and consider it. But really what it comes down to is we want to have a policy that, just like many other things, are very broadly based, and we want to ensure that we have options for local control. And what I mean by that is having the principal be the one responsible for working with her community and determining what does their community want as the base level. This is the minimum you have to wear to school, and this is what we're going to ask you to do in addition to that. If the community decides, hey, we want them all to wear ties on Fridays, then the principal can go through their CIC to be able to do so, and then make that determination with their approval of their executive director. And one of the other things is just know that we're always soliciting feedback from our community, if it's not just our parents, but also through our administrators and our counselors. We have the Behavior Oversight Committee, which is a group that meets quarterly to look at trends and issues, to look at data, to really make determinations as to what's the best practice. If it's something that's new, like this last legislative session, we had quite a few new laws that came across that we needed to put in place, things that were required, and a lot of changes that had to be made across the district that required us to get input. And so this is a continuous improvement cycle. Our office is always collaborative in that nature. I like to think over the last few years that I've been with the office that we've changed the perspective of people towards our office, but also from us looking out, because we really do take into consideration what goes into kids' backgrounds before they reach our office for a possible placement at alternative or expulsion to JJA, while balancing student safety across the board and ensuring all of our students and staff are safe. And then the 411 is just, honestly, it's like whatever's left over and people don't know where to land, and they end up calling our office, to be perfectly honest, and we find them the right spot. We have great customer service. We have folks that are very knowledgeable, and they just kind of know where all the niche questions belong. If it's not with us, it's with another department. So I encourage you to try to find the information otherwise, but we are always the place you can go to if you can't figure it out. So I was asked to talk about, I guess, the new vaping laws, but essentially a couple of years ago, when the legislation session prior to this most recent one, that's when we actually really had a big change, and that's when House Bill 114 was implemented, and that's when that mandatory placement and alternative for any e-cig was put into place. And so we had a significant amount of kids that were required to go to alternative, when previously it was handled on campus. Those kiddos were typically given ISS, depending on what cluster it is and what agreements the school clusters had. High school principals and middle schools, they'll typically talk about, okay, what are we doing for fighting? What are we doing for these different offenses? And they would have a kind of a base level, because those were mostly local control offenses. But then it became a mandatory offense where they were required to go to DAP, which is the Disciplinary Alternative Education Program. And that's the statutory name for it. So that means alternative middle school, that means alternative elementary, and alternative high school. And then you also have, just so you know, JJA, was the Juvenile Justice Academy Education Program, which is when we expel a kiddo outside the district. We're not going to be discussing that for these parts, but I did do some research. So the majority of these really don't apply to the school district specifically, except for what was changed in House Bill 6. And so House Bill 6 changed the required mandatory placement for the e-cigs. That became a discretionary point for board members to decide. Each individual school district could make the determination if they wanted to either make it a placement on the first offense for an e-cig, placement meaning to an alternative center, or if they wanted to do 10 days in ISS. So school district boards had the option of choosing one or the other. The options, they don't have a third option. I mean, there might be somebody who got super innovative and maybe they're in trouble with TEA, but the options that were given to us were you have ISS for 10 days or you can place them at alternative. And so we suggested to the board, and they agreed that we would do for first offense for e-cig, and I'm talking about non-THC e-cigs. That's everything else besides e-cigs. Excuse me, everything else besides THC. That would be 10 days of ISS on the campus. Previously, it was a little bit of a interesting situation we had to kind of create, because you had kids who are mandated to go to alternative, but we have so many seats at alternative. And then we have kids who are going for assaults and other things that are more serious, depending upon your perspective and my perspective. And violent activities are more serious. And TEA and the legislature also believe so. So we could swap kids out. So if there was not a seat available, but there was a non-violent offender that was at alternative, we can send them back to the home campus and put them in a DAP on campus, which is not something we do because we have an off-campus DAP by law. We have to have that. I'm sorry if we're getting into the weeds too far with this, but now we had a DAP ISS, which is an ISS room that was kind of split down the middle, and then you have a DAP on the other side. Essentially the same thing as ISS, but just bifurcated in a way that we can delineate this person actually has a placement, which means that the kid couldn't go to like football games. They couldn't go to after school things. They had to show up to campus at a certain spot and be escorted to ISS. So it's kind of like a mini DAP, but on the home campus. But now that's been removed, so they just go to regular ISS. It's not considered a DAP placement, which I think overall for the betterment, the shock and awe that happened with the mandatory placements was effective. We had a significant amount of kiddos that went, and then I think that was a good impression. I say good in the sense where the impression was made based on what the legislature was looking for. And they conceded on the next legislative session where they pulled that back a bit and they said, okay, now you have the option. So we do have, and I'll go over those items with you, what we use for our punishment range is for consequences for kiddos for vaping related things. But just a couple of the bills that came out that were passed that I found for y'all that you're likely aware of, but and one of the biggest issues that we have when it comes to searches, we haven't seen a lot of this, but we go to conferences and other districts have seen it, but like people who are making devices that look like something else. So this is a highlighter, or this is something that's concealable. So they've made those, illegal. The disposable vapes are one thing that they also made illegal, which is also specifically designated Chinese style disposable vapes written into law, and then the ban of any type of e-cig that has a Delta 8, Delta 9, Delta 10, the CBD, and that's over the 0.03 limit. And then the other piece is, I just want to draw your attention to this because I did go to a conference a while back, and it's something that kind of hit home because it may be something to consider, but sometimes when an individual, and I'm not saying just kids, but an individual takes a substance, an illegal substance, they will also take another illegal substance along with it because it creates an enhancement to that original drug. And so that's where you have some of the kratoms and kavas and the tianepin. Those are like enhancements to the drug that they're taking. So it's like you get, let's say you have a pill that you're taking, let's just call it, Oxycontin or whatever. You take this, but you take this other one with it, and it creates a stronger effect. It's more of a catalyst. And so those are things that the state has identified as things that they have banned. Within 1,000 feet of a church or a school, I know that the city of San Antonio, I think I was somewhat instrumental in helping encourage them through our local media because they call and ask questions about vaping, especially when House Bill 114 was put out. They called and asked, well, how's this impacting you? And I said, well, look, this is a responsive things. We have preventative things. We talk about kids, education, drug education, what you all do here, what the counselors do, what the teachers do, the anti-vaping conversations that they have with them. But I said, this is a community effort because the community needs to, not that the community isn't working on it, but the community needs to make a collaborative decision. And so we're not going to allow for these things in our community to affect our kids. And so the 1,000 feet away from a church or school, it's helpful, but we had institutions and the businesses that were, prior to this law being passed, were violating that. and they were near our areas, and so San Antonio passed that ordinance recently. And it comes to like the zoning issues when you look at putting a business next to a school and saying, well, is this considered advertising if I have it in the window or if I put it up on the board? Or like, okay, well, that doesn't help much too. That's a helpful thing, but it really comes to the home as well, because when mom and dad are vaping in the home, and like, okay, well, it's an alternative to a cigarette. I'm not going to get into the pejorative like argument about it, but essentially it needs to be this collective thing, because this is something that is much more different than cigarettes, where it's so much more concealable and kids can get away with it and they can pocket it, and some of them have little to no metal in them, so metal detectors and wands don't pick them up. It's very difficult to detect unless it's directly in front of you. And plus the damage it causes our schools. And then they may have discussed that with you in the past, but talk about plumbing issues when kids are flushing vapes down the toilet. They're wrecking plumbing, like a significant dollar amount attached to that too. And then the Governor Abbott did the last one, executive order. That was the veto of SB 3, the THC ban, but they required the age verification. And I'd like to see, I'm just very curious as to what the outcome is going to be as to having TABC and then Department of Health Services. How are they going to regulate all this? Because the majority of these issues are come around, like there's no regulatory practice that has been monitoring like what's in these vapes, what's in the liquid. Like you can get one off at a store and you really don't know what's in it. It says what's in it in the packages, but there's nobody that you're testing. There's no regulatory practice behind it. And they have to hire, I imagine they have to hire a ton of people and figure out what that looks like. So if you want to give me a warning on time, I'm just going to keep talking until I get to dead end here. So this is kind of our background, so I'm happy to continue to talk about it. And just so you're aware, this is what we presented to the board when we were doing the student code of conduct this last summer, so I feel comfortable sharing this with y'all. So we have our first offense. This is secondary. The elementary is, take all the numbers minus 5 days. The elementary is much smaller numbers. So they still have to do the first offense because the law didn't delineate between elementary and secondary. So they would do 10 days ISS, and then the second offense is 20, and then 25. And so with House Bill 6, something our district already did anyway, but we had a behavior agreement. We just didn't have the contract that TEA had designed for in response to House Bill 6. But essentially what we do is we provide for good behavior. If they've done their days at the alternative center and they're doing well and they're showing up every day, then they can get out a little early. So the column on the right indicates the early out days should they have good behavior. And that the impetus behind that is to encourage good behavior and also to support specifically for other related offenses, like if it's substance abuse, when they have a THC vape, then they can do what we call the Alcohol Drug Education Program, ADEP, and they have a significant amount of time that's reduced from their placement on the first time if they do that drug education program. So there's some incentive for them to do that as well. And then for anybody who's selling or delivering just regular e-cigs, then it's 25 days at alternative. So our student data, I just ran the last 3 years. I thought this might be helpful for you. So we have marijuana or THC, and I say that because it's also, we still find on rare occasions kids with the old school leafy ones inside of a sandwich bag. That's pretty rare, but it does happen. Everybody my age or older is like, yeah, I know what that is. You young folks are like, what? Like, so I know exactly. No one's selling lids behind the Camaro in the back parking lot. And I got another group of people who knew what a lid was. All right. It's a peanut butter jar lid, and I used to use that as a measurement. But anyways, now I'm showing my age. All right. So the codes I have on the left-hand side, if you ever go to TEA's webpage, and I put these up there so that you could, if you wanted to go look it up, you would know these are. These are the codes that we have to report each offense under. So everything in government has a coding mechanism to it. So if you ever wanted to go find them out, sometimes it just has the numerical code, but this is, I just explained it for you so you know what to look for. So at the 63s, you'll notice from the 23-24, 24-25 school year, we had the law that then changed the 25-26 school year. And so you will have some zeros across the columns that annotate that code didn't exist, but there was previously in another code. So the 63 and the 67 and 63 are kind of intertwined. They took out the possessed because that was the individual use, and they made that separate, so it's a separate coding because it's now no longer a mandatory, but the 63 is still a mandatory. We've not had anybody over the last several years. It's very difficult to catch somebody dealing, to show that there's like you think about like the 21 Jump Street, right? You know, am I still showing my age here? You got to have a hand-to-hand. Hand-to-hand is like, I saw you give the money and you gave me the drugs. We catch a kid with, 3 or 4 vapes in their backpack, it's all personal use, all right? Or they're not bringing in crates of it, so it's difficult to say that this is actual distribution. So it's a very difficult one to actually prove. But you will notice that there has been a steady decrease since the 23-24 school year. There was a significant spike leading in 2018 and 19, when I took over student leadership and well-being. Dr. Micah called me. I remember very specifically. I was up on the 6th floor. He called my cell and he's like, I want you to look into this vaping thing because it's going to be a problem. And lo and behold, we started getting calls from campuses like, what are we going to do about this? And our numbers grew rapidly. And it wasn't just us. It was every district across the nation, because kids were finding out quickly that they could access these devices, and they could bring them into schools, and they could sell them or use them, and it was virtually undetectable. I mean, you could walk around the corner, puff it real quick, and walk back, and you didn't have much of an aura or a smell to them. Some were very indiscernible with regards to the aromas that they had. And so it was very easy to get away with it, and that just became a compounding issue. And so as the districts responded, sending kids to alternative and ramping up our intervention efforts, trying to figure out what exactly it is, and there wasn't a lot of data behind it. And there's some lung bubbling issues that happen, and these rare things that do blow up, but those are rare and far between. It was difficult, and nobody really understood the messaging. I think the legislature, in retrospect, I think now there could have been a couple of kids that probably didn't need to go to alternative, but they were still caught with it, but they didn't need to have that kind of a hard lesson. I think overall that it did serve its purpose, and I'm glad that they did dial it back a little bit to allow us to have some flexibility and local control to be able to make the determination that 10 days in ISS was appropriate for the first offense. I get very concerned about kids that go to alternative the first time because their risk of reoffending goes up after that. And it doesn't necessarily mean that it's the pipeline to prison for every single kid, but you do see in the data for kids who end up in prison later as adults, there is significant issues when they were in school and the criminalization of their behavior. And so we try to balance the two, teaching a very strong lesson, but also making sure we have the opportunity to save the kids so they're not pushed too far into it. Because if you give the most, what research tells, if you give the most extreme punishment for one of the lowest level offenses, kids are 4 times more likely to reoffend. The recidivism rate goes up super high. So you want to strike the balance where this lesson learned, and they go about their business and they go on to do better things in life. So you have seen there's a steady decrease. I would like to say that there are significant intervention pieces in place. There are, but considering we don't know what the next phase of this might look like. We're trying to forecast what is the next, because you see the devices are getting smaller and smaller. There's new brands coming out. We have new licensure as to what types of things can be developed and imported into the country. But when things are being smuggled into the country and kids can go onto Instagram or Snap and easily buy something and gets delivered to their neighborhood, and they just have to walk down to the mailbox and pick it up. That is where I'm talking about our community effort and impetus to how we need to join together with all of our partners across the board. Because if we're talking about the U.S. Post Office or FedEx or all these organizations or companies that are mailing things back and forth, it's legal in some states and legal and not legal in others, but they can still show up over here readily and available. It makes it very difficult. Even back in the day, you had to go drive to the gas station, go meet your dealer at the gas station, you go get your lid of leafy green. Now they deliver to you very much like DoorDash, because they're already out. They're already out, and for $40 a pop, it's worth their effort to do so. So that's where I think the messaging and the community messaging needs to come from, to be able to help stem the tide as to what this looks like. So I think I went way over my time, so I apologize, but I'm happy to answer any questions because I think that was my last one. And not even sure if I answered what you were asking for, but I think I hit all the bases to appropriately cover it. Yes, ma'am.
Not really a question. I was just really pleased to hear that your team looks at the data and thinks about how do we get the best result for the kid, and how do we treat a first offender to minimize them, how do we treat a first offender? I don't think it's on. But anyway, how do we treat a first offender to get them back into the school population and on a good path? I really appreciate that you guys are putting that level of thought and customization into it.
Sure, thank you. When you look at our recidivism rates, it's interesting because our recidivism rates go down from year to year, but they're much higher within the same year. Kid gets in trouble the first time, the chance to get in trouble the second time is higher than if they were going to get in trouble the next year. But a lot of that, it comes with maturity and experience too, like having done their time at the alternative, and then they go, the summertime happens, they reflect on it, maybe they got in trouble, maybe they had things taken away from them, and then the consequences have marinated in it long enough, and then the next year they typically don't have the same level of offense. So we're getting there. Any other questions?
Any other questions? All right. Thank you very much, Tyler. Appreciate you coming out.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is the security and safety presentation. Mr. Dan Lyon, the Chief of Security and Safety. Welcome.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, y'all. My name is Dan Lyon, the Chief of Security and Safety, the freshman department of the district. We are the newest and trying to figure out where our role is, so I appreciate this being at the SHAC meeting. I'm sorry I couldn't be here in February. We actually had a DVA from TEA. It's kind of our bread and butter at the department, which we'll go over here with the brief. But I'll kind of let you know what the department's all about. So kind of what it started, we're 3 years old. We provide you with the CSS, the Campus Safety Specialists at all elementary schools. Their sole role is to basically protect the kids and the staff that are at those schools in the event of an active threat, and then also ensure that the physical security portion of that campus is taken care of as far as all the compliance is coming down from TEA. So they take a huge portion of the pie from the principals and really kind of lighten that load to ensure the compliances that are coming down from TEA or legislation are handled by them. So the department will push down any compliances that are new or that we need to comply with. We'll provide a lot of the stuff through the grants that we are pushing for. That money will provide either the equipment that's needed or the services that are needed, and then those those campus safety specialists will put it into play and then work with the campus on site to get it implemented throughout their processes. They also help with the SRP. If you haven't heard of it, it's the Standard Response Protocol, your holds, your secures, your lockdowns, your shelters, and your evacuations, getting the staff and the students trained up in that in the event we ever have to use it, which is practiced every month throughout the year along with your fire drills. So they're kind of just making sure the campus overall in general is a safe environment for the kids and ensuring the staff understand their roles in the event of a non-critical or a critical event that occurs. So they also help out with the visitor management and kind of de-escalate any situations that are there. But overall, the boss of that we call them the mayors of the town, they make those executive decisions. We are just there to encourage good recommendations or suggestions. Now, I know the question will come up, and I always love entertaining it because of the fact that we do put some things in black and white. But there are other things that we can't, and it's very frustrating in the department, especially in my position, because TEA likes to shift the sands. So when we do go with one item that we recommend, we'd like to put that in black and white because it makes things a lot easier for us. But then if we were to, then we'd be, in the next month, we'd be shifting sands again, and we'd be going to the board and saying, hey, we have to change this policy just because state says that we have to do it another way now. So a lot of the stuff that we bring to the campuses is a strong recommendation. It's between those instructional hours. So one of the recommendations that we do provide that the campuses are great about, not only the elementaries but the secondaries as well, is anytime a student enters that campus, and not between the instructional hours, is that we maintain the integrity or the posture of that campus, meaning that those doors remain locked, and then that's when our job, we go to work. Our sheepdogs are ensuring that flock is taken care of, and that's what we kind of look at ourselves as, right? That sheepdog is constantly moving. The herder is just looking at the flock, they're taking care of them, and they don't have to worry about that sheepdog moving around, making sure that there's no threats that are out there. So that is their sole role at that elementary level. Will you see us in the secondaries? I'm not too sure. There are talks about maybe the middle school level at campuses that may require a little less attention from the SROs. But we do work hand in hand with the police, and it works out great because those patrols that come out, we get information from them, and then we also share information to them as it goes out. The security department is kind of the proactive measure. We like to call ourselves the vitamin C to a cold. So that we can hopefully prepare for when it does happen, not if. When it does happen, our staff and students are prepared for it, and it's not the first time that they were seeing something that occurs. So that is our whole intent for this department, is to get the information out there and get them prepared for the event. Moving down there, when I'm talking about the physical security and the compliances, you're looking at everything that we will get audited on from TEA. Like I said, in February, we had our DVA, which is a 4-year audit, and it comes around every 4 years. And within that 4 years, we also have a 3-year DAR, which is an internal pulse check. It's mandated by the state, which we are currently in. So we had our 4-year in February, and I had to turn around, and I had to hit about 90 facilities, which we are currently doing with 7 of my CSSs helping me out. But 90 facilities within the district, we have to go through and do basically the same exact thing, but it's 100%. This is a 3-year drawn-out process, so this should have started in 23, and we should be ending it this month so that I can turn the report in to the Safety and Security Committee meeting, or a committee team, which we'll actually have tomorrow, and you're more than welcome to attend the public session to know what's going on in the district as far as what's coming about or what has occurred. But with that 4-year, what the TEA will do is they'll spread agents out throughout the district, and they will go in and hit us on the 6 categories within the campus. And it's mostly physical, and then they will interview staff members on basically processes. How is the training occurring? How is your first aid coming down? Mental health awareness. When I talk about security, like I said, we're new and we're trying to figure our way around here in the district because we have a very big umbrella. Even instructional world, our reach, you wouldn't think security is in instructional world. You wouldn't think that we are in the mental health world, but we are in everything. We're in everything from behavioral threat assessments into maintenance, into curriculum, into, you name it, we are in it, and it's a challenge to figure out how we collaborate with each and every single department to ensure that the campuses are getting what they need from our department. So with that 4-year, what they did is they came through. We had 3 days to get it done. What they did the week prior, we made contact. I was in contact with Mr. Gonzalez himself, which is our agent that we've been dealing with. Since October, we had to sit down with Dr. Sean Micah at the beginning to let him know that, hey, this is when it's going to happen. So we were preparing for the last 6 months for this. Everything from ensuring every exterior door with a window and adjacent window was security filmed, to having lock boxes for our law enforcement, not just your Knox boxes for your fire departments, into making sure the SRP drills are being logged into Sentinel, making sure our door checks every single week are being logged into Sentinel, making sure we have teams for the behavioral threat assessments developed within the campuses, and they are tracked with the certifications coming through Texas School Safety Center or the ESC 20, and then filed accordingly. And in that repository, everything is filed within the Sentinel. So he started checking our repository to make sure the district is in compliance with everything that is required. With the district itself, we have 9 different categories with multiple items that are inside there. And to be honest with you, with the first 4-year, I'm not sure how we add up, but from what he told us is that we did very well. So we get the final report tomorrow, actually, because it went up to Austin to get the final review. So Mr. Jarrett, myself, and the agent will sit down and we will go over that. Part of that stuff will be discussed tomorrow in the committee to make sure the committee is aware of what's going on, because it also affects the 3-year audit that we are currently in. So some of that stuff will be discussed tomorrow. We do know some of the items when we were going into the 4-year that we are short on, There are some items that we are trying to get up to, which is SPAT technology. That's a transparency item that we knew we had a vendor set up and things fell through. So we are trying to get that into every single classroom. And what that is silent panic alert technology. And every single classroom will have the ability to call 911 from right where they're at, so there is no delay in response when the event does occur. That is one of the items there. We also knew that, we found out that our security film was another item that we had to extend even further. The nearby definition did change during the 2-year process of us doing this project. Through the formula grant that we were provided. We used that money towards every single exterior door, and I'll tell you right now, Madison, just to give you a perspective of it, 250 doors, and I've done the labeling myself, so I've walked every single door. So you can just imagine Madison with 250 doors. So now just think of every single school that's out there. Those are the doors that we had to do for the last 2 years. So now adjacent windows to any of those doors, we have to go even further if there is no column or a wall separating. So now we have to extend it further to tighten the posture of every single campus. So we have a plan for that, to work with our vendor to extend that security measure, and then make sure that every single campus has that break proof, not bulletproof, break proof, basically shatterproof glass. And I will tell you this material does work. We have seen multiple videos where people have tried breaking into the schools, and it took them about 20 minutes. Where they finally got through, and you have to cut through the film. So the product is great. We will continue to work on that process, working cluster by cluster to ensure that we fit the compliance. And then the last one was kind of a hiccup on the department. International Fire Code 505 means that we have to have labels that are 4 inches. We came up short about 1/4 of an inch. So we will be relabeling every single door that is out there. And again, we did quite a few with the assistance of our maintenance, which I appreciate them. But now that we have the number of every single school and how many doors they have, it makes it quite easier, and it'll be it'll be a more streamlined process. So we will work with print services and get us the exact numbers inside and outside, and we're going to be going with 8-inch lettering. So there is no mistake whether we're a 1/4 inch or not. So we did have an auditor come out with a measuring tape, and he says, "Yep, you are." I'm like, "You got to be kidding me." So we are going to be working towards that diligently. My team has been on top of it. I'll tell you right now, we utilize CSSs that are out there to do the elementary schools, and they're killing it. My team at the department, there's 3 of us. We have taken our time over the weekend to come in to make sure that we are compliant just before this 4-year hit. They do pick a certain amount of schools. This year it was 52 schools. All 52 schools flourished. I'll tell you right now, we were a step ahead of the minimal compliance, aside from the items that we knew that we were going to be hit on. And we are working with departments to ensure that we get that before the next school year, such as your SPAT technology. With the 3-year, what you look at is you basically go back in and you ask those same exact questions. We interview some of the staff members, and then we also have a little conference with the administration. What are some of the hurdles or challenges that you have at your campuses, right? We want them to be upfront and honest. Even though it's a pulse check, this is the stuff that we can take to the security committee. We can devise a plan as a team, and we can bring that to the departments that would actually have a lot of sway in us developing those processes or getting what we need. And then move forward with that plan, right? When the DVA comes back tomorrow, we have to devise that plan for TEA actually to respond for a corrective action. And Mr. Jarrett with the committee and the board will all be aware of what the plan is, and then I will have to provide our corrective action moving forward to meet those compliances. So that is kind of what our department does in a nutshell. There is quite a few more little small things that we deal with. Your visitor access we help with. We do have safety in our name, but when I say safety, it's not like risk management and safety. I think of like the blanket at the end of a bad situation. We're here to protect you, okay? But we do work hand in hand with risk management and safety as far as everything when it comes to the campuses, hand in hand with maintenance when it comes to the fire, because our fingers are in everything, not because I want to be. It's just because of what we have to respond to TEA with. And also with guidance services, discipline with Tyler. There's a lot of things that we didn't even think that we were a part of, that we are involved in. So it's been a bumpy 7 months that I've been in the position, but it's been a eye-opening experience, but pretty cool. So it's pretty cool. Pretty cool job. And then I like to say that NEISD, honestly, as a parent, so security hat off, I took my kids out of Northside for this reason. Because everything that I have seen in the first 3 months that I was here, I took my kids out of Northside because what you guys are doing here in Northeast is not even comparable to what they're not doing over there. Like aside from the CSSs, I look at the curriculum, I look at the people that you have in places as teachers and principals. I live at campuses to understand their challenges and what they're needing. You'll barely find me in my office, which is now the safety center, so we can talk on that a little bit real quick, or if you have questions on it, I'll answer them the best I can. But I brought my kids over here for that reason, and I'm very grateful for it because they have excelled. Curriculum-wise, my kids were failing at Northside. We have tried to address it for the last 2 years. The administration was not responsive, and as soon as I got over here, the community that I have walked into, my kids have flourished. So it is very nice to see, and I hope it's not because of the position I hold. I really do. They don't treat me like that over there. They treat me like a parent. I asked them to do that. My wife usually deals with a lot of the stuff, but they're so happy to be here. It's a huge change. So I will say that Northeast is doing a lot more than the biggest school district that is in San Antonio, and that's not just from what I see as a parent, but even as far as the security department itself. We get a lot of hate because of, you even think about our football games, soccer games, all that stuff that we are at. Why are you guys doing this? Well, it's because we want to be ahead of the game, right? There's a lot of things that are going out there. The world is changing. We are not in the same world where we grew up in, where you could just walk into a game, enjoy it, and then leave, right? So we are here. We're going to be prepared for it, and hopefully it's not too taxing on the community, the staff, the students, and we can still continue to enjoy it. So I'll leave it there for any questions as far as the security department.
Anybody got a question? All right.
Sir.
Yeah, just, who handled all these different responsibilities before the department was created?
So Mr. Paul Duran was in there for the last 3 years. I am not sure what happened prior to that. So I know a lot of it fell on the campuses, because how we do work with the secondaries is I do not rely on the SROs or the police to do it. They have their own responsibilities. So we do have an assistant principal at each middle school and high school that stand in as our security POC. And then they have done an amazing job to respond to what we need. Most of the time, again, like I say, I try to take that off their plate. We'll come in and take care of it. But we rely on them to make sure there are eyes and ears on campus. If there's anything that we need to come in and evaluate or conduct, they'll let us know, and then we'll come to and do it. So I'm going to assume it fell on the administration. So that's kind of what we're here for, to hopefully take that pressure off. Yes, ma'am.
I don't necessarily have a question. I just wanted to say thank you for being here and talking with us about this. Because, I mean, obviously what you do is paramount. And as we come up on the anniversary of Uvalde and all of that, it's on your mind. And I'm sure it is hard retrofitting all these mid-century schools for, modern threats. And so thank you for coming and covering that with us. I had no idea that much was happening.
Yeah. Yep. And then just real quick, last touch, like you said, you all seen the bond that's coming out. So there is some awesome stuff coming through here that I am a part of, that a lot of the police are taking care of, maintenance is taking care of, other departments that involve security. So you're going to see a major change as it comes through. And I really hope the community is delighted. It's going to really enhance the capabilities for the campuses. And I'm really hoping, because our goal for the department is to take off, I don't want to say burden, but this responsibility, so that the focus is the instruction, so that they can stay focused for those kids. So I'm excited for it, and I'm hoping that you guys see a change here in the next year. So thank you all for having me. Appreciate it.
Great, thank you. All right, that brings us to The next item is going to be the review and the February 25, 2026 minutes. If you, is there a motion to accept the February 25th, 2026? We have a motion. Do we have a second? All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor to accept the minutes as noted, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. All right, the ayes have it. Thank you very much. Okay, next item on the agenda is the standing committee reports. So if you'll go in this order, the first one is the classroom health and sex ed. Second one will be the fitness and physical activity. Third one will be nutrition, and the fourth one will be safe and healthy schools. Do we have the chair for the classroom health and sex ed? Oh, okay, Bonnie's going to go ahead and do that.
Thank you, Bonnie.
So at our last meeting, we discussed looking at some of the data, what's that thing called? The school health index data, trying to decide what part of that we wanted to focus on and how exactly the data is split, because there's several things that we think belong to Chase that are in other areas. So we're just reviewing those to figure out what we want to target next.
All right, great. Next one is fitness and physical activity.
Yeah, similarly, we've been reviewing.
Do you mind stepping up the podium, please?
She didn't have to get up.
She's got the mic.
I'm like, here, come over here.
And Ruth, we do appreciate the fact that you have a loud projecting voice.
Sorry. We are also still reviewing some of the survey results and data and assessing what we may want to focus on next. We're particularly interested in middle schools, but the physical layout of the middle schools are each so different, and the challenge of finding staff to supervise any sort of extra free physical time that would be allowed, for moving around is just a big challenge in the middle school. So that's what we've been looking into and talking about.
Thank you. Next, nutrition.
Okay, so nutrition. What we've been doing over the last month since our prior meeting was speaking with our contacts within PTAs and school clubs, student council clubs, and boosters to find out what questions they have about fundraisers during school hours and what food they can provide during those school hour fundraisers. Spoiler alert, not a lot. But we're also trying to find out what successful fundraisers they've had that don't involve food. I anticipate not many. But anyway, we'll get together some kind of a flyer for it. But yeah, so today we're going to be collating our responses, and then next week we'll have more to talk about. Thanks.
Great, thank you. And last but not least, safe and healthy schools.
Okay, we continue to talk about helping counselors out by taking some of their workload away, placing the 504 work on a specific person at each campus, as to not necessarily hiring somebody new, but somebody there that has the potential to take on just that responsibility. And we were also thinking about talking to somebody, a representative, I believe from Northside, that currently does that. They do have positions like that.
Great, thank you. All right, next on the agenda is the SHAC bylaw review, potential changes, discussion, and potential vote. So, thank you for those people that chimed in and provided some assistance or suggestions on the amended or proposed amended bylaws. So, one of the items that came to ahead was the non-attendance for 2 consecutive meetings of SHAC or standing committee within a 1-year period may result in the removal. So there are some some question on whether or not we wanted to consider, or whether we were considering the SHAC meeting as one meeting and then the standing committee as a separate meeting. So we needed to get that clarified as to how we were going to count those, because obviously if you weren't at the February meeting for the SHAC, you weren't going to be probably there at the standing committee. So I think that combining the two as a full meeting would be the best benefit, or at least somehow rewording this to where it's clear. So the suggestion, go ahead, you want to make?
No, I'm just saying, this is my suggestion.
Okay.
Sorry, y'all, but I just did some background on this. We've never
Do you,
counted-
Deb, or can we get you the mic? I'm sorry, we'll get you the mic if it's not.
committee doesn't like microphones.
Hello? Yes. Hello? Now that I made it up here, I'm gonna have to lean on the counter. This is my suggestion because I don't know how it ever changed, but it never used to be like this. Back in the old days, we always had standing committee time after the full SHAC meeting. It was never considered a separate meeting. The only time it was a separate meeting is like, say, maybe Chase, when you all used to meet like 3 times a week, it seemed. You know what I'm talking about, Katie. Is if you met on a different day or a different time. You know, like say maybe you wanted to meet today, but you met at 10 o'clock this morning, or if you want to meet at 3 o'clock this afternoon, something like that. But if it's in conjunction following this meeting, if there is time for standing committee, we don't need to take separate attendance, because we have a lot of folks that by missing today's meeting, they're missing 2 meetings as it is, because they're missing the full SHAC and they're missing the standing committee meeting. So right there, their trustee, we don't want to put extra burden on them, should be able to remove them if they wanted to, because they've missed 2 consecutive meetings. So that's my rationale. We've never changed it, so I don't know how we got off on this as counting 2 separate meetings, since I think we should go back to what we were before.
Sure. All right, I guess we need to go ahead and have a motion to make this change, so that we can, I guess, get it corrected. So let's see. So I don't know if someone wants to phrase it, or we can just. I see Sean's working.
Yeah, sorry, the hamster wheel's running. So it says non-attendance of 2 meetings of either SHAC or standing committee. So if this is 1 meeting, then that's just 1. If, like for us, because we decided to meet every day for 3.5 years, but if you miss 2 of the additional meetings back to back, like we've been on Fridays. If I miss 2 Fridays, well, then that fulfills it. Even though I was making the SHAC meetings, I was still missing the standing meetings that were separate. So I just want to say the verbiage in that makes sense to me, that it's either. So it's either one or the other, because it means you haven't been here in 2 months for SHAC meetings, or you decided to skip out on 2 meetings during the month of your extra meeting. So for me, it makes sense just to leave it. This is 1 meeting. Those other meetings are 1 meetings, and when you start missing 2 in a row, that's where the issue becomes. That's the way I read it, but I'm just an Aggie.
Okay, my hamster's going to chase your hamster. Either would be, this is a meeting, full SHAC.
Correct.
Okay, standing committee is another meeting. So those are 2 separate things. So that's where the either would fit into that. If you're having a standing committee, subcommittee, whatever the heck we call it, that's another thing we've changed too. But standing committee, I guess, is what our term is currently. If you're having that after the full SHAC, then it's considered 2 meetings, because it's not the same meeting technically. So just go back to have it be 1 meeting.
If we made the 2 consecutive meetings be 3 consecutive meetings, that would accommodate both.
Well, and again, what we can do, what we need to do, I guess, really is to have a motion, so then we can really open up discussion. So,
Okay, I make a motion.
okay.
Now we can discuss, right?
All right, so we have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a second. Okay. So the motion is, now we can open it for discussion. I do understand the reasoning of having it considered. You know, right now, the bylaws say that we have to have a minimum of 4 SHAC meetings throughout the year. And so I think the idea is that if you're missing 2, if you're missing 2 of those 4 SHAC meetings, then you can be removed. Now, if you're counting the full SHAC meeting and the standing committee meetings separately, you could miss 1 meeting for 1 day, and now all of a sudden you're considered possibly removed, or have the potential for being removed. So I understand the reasoning. John, I'll help you with the math a little bit later if you really want to get into it. But because I went to ADIP too, so I can decipher this. So I do understand the reasoning, and I also agree with it. So that's my 2 cents.
So now that I'm so sorry. Now that I hear how Sean heard it, the word either is actually, I think, tripping everybody up on their counting. So I almost wonder if it would say non-attendance of 2 consecutive meetings to SHAC, 2 consecutive SHAC meetings, or 2 consecutive standing committee meetings, because we're hearing the word either different, because you're saying either as in you're lumping them together, and Sean's hearing either SHAC, standing committee. So it's how you're counting them.
Okay.
Sorry, Anna. But if you do it that way, then if a person misses today, they've missed 1 SHAC meeting, and they've missed 1 standing committee meeting. Thereby, they've missed 2.
Either 2 SHAC meetings or 2 standing committee meetings. So you've only missed 1 and 1. It's the word either right there that's messing everybody up. Take the word either, repeat 2 consecutive, and then you're in that space.
We have someone in the back. Elizabeth, I'm sorry, thank you.
Someone, I've been here for a long time.
Yes.
Elizabeth, yes, Elizabeth Glazier. Julie and I were just conferring, and I just wanted to suggest that maybe we put the committees within the agenda of the SHAC meeting now that they are sort of one long meeting, and so it just becomes like if you miss the meeting, you miss the meeting.
Okay. Can you rephrase that? I'm sorry.
Well, she's saying that it needs to be an agenda item for the standing committee. The problem is that the standing committees are not public, so if it's an agenda item, the public can stay. So it has to be separate from the public meeting. So if it's an agenda item, it's a part of the public meeting. Does that make sense?
Just so it's clear, I think we need clarification. I just think the wording, that was my suggestion on the wording.
Okay, so are you making a friendly amendment to?
Okay, yeah, so, sorry, friendly amendment that it would say non-attendance of 2 how do I say it? Non-attendance of 2 consecutive, how did it go? Non-attendance of 2 consecutive SHAC meetings or 2 consecutive standing committee meetings within 1 year period may result in removal. That's my friendly amendment.
Okay, so I have a question. When will this take effect? Because we have people that haven't been here that missed. So when will this take effect?
So we have every year we have to review the bylaws and then make any suggestions or suggest that, hey, that's the bylaws are good for the following year. So this would be a suggestion to the Board of Trustees for their review, and then they can either accept or deny our suggestions for the following year. Okay, Mitch, have you got it? Right, so okay, Mitch, are you going to put that in the vote? All right. Any other discussion? If not, then what we're going to do is we're going to proceed to a vote. Mitch is going to get the wording correct so that we can vote on. Mitch, do you mind taking out the meetings of right before either? And then remove meetings before the standing committee. Can you go ahead and add that? Okay. All right. All right. So this is one. This is one of the. We're going to add this into our vote. All right, while I'm going to go ahead and pass out some paperwork so that we can do the vote. If you'll please refrain on scanning it with your phone, because it will take you immediately to the vote. And then once everybody has it, I will give you an appointed time to scan. Please do not scan until noted to scan. Those two. I've got mine. looks like everybody's got their paperwork. If you'll go ahead and scan with your phone, and then you can vote. Mitch, I think you have to change the slide. Okay. Okay, has everybody voted? All votes are in? Okay. Great, thank you very much for everybody's votes. There were 21 votes, 19 were in favor of the revised note, 2 abstained, and 0 were opposed. So the ayes have it. Okay, next item on the agenda is update to the SHAC meeting dates. So right now we have one remaining SHAC meeting date on April 22nd. We had a potential date of a May meeting, but unless we have anything pressing, it doesn't look like we need to have that meeting. Right now we are looking at the standing committees can make arrangements with Mitch, the administrative liaison, to continue any additional work you want to do within the standing committees. Is there any issues or questions on the remaining April 22nd meeting? All right. Then with that, looks like it is 1:24. And the meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much for your attendance. We'll see you April 22nd.